Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1111 class for the fall 2020 semester at Rankin, I'm going through a series of video presentations that correspond to the lessons in our textbook, Get Programming with Node.js by Jonathan Wexler, a Manning publication. Unit 1 of this book is lessons 0, 1, and 2. I have previously done lesson 0 and lesson 1, so it's time to get in here, as you can see, to lesson 2. In this lesson, as it says, we write and run our first JavaScript file with Node.js. Alright. At the end it says the author will show us how to import JavaScript files into REPL so that we can work with pre-written code. So in particular, we've got 3 objectives here: to be able to create and save a JavaScript file, to run a JavaScript file with Node.js, and finally to load that JavaScript file into REPL. Alright, and the author gives you a thing here, says, consider this, you're testing some source code you've written in JavaScript, and they give you the code that's right there. So to test whether or not it works, it says you could save it in a file, link it to an HTML web page, and run that file in a browser, viewing the results in the inspector window. With Node.js, since we're going to be running it in the terminal, we don't even have to worry about that. So again, it's just a little bit, for lack of better words, this isn't the best way to put it probably, but what we have is a nicety. It's easier for us with what we're working on. Now, one thing about this book, when you start to go through the examples, I don't know, everyone's different, but I look back, and you think about, for example, I think of my kids when my kids took swimming lessons. Alright, and even though they were real little, they wanted to jump into the big pool right away. They weren't allowed to do that. It was more the crawl, walk, run mentality. In other words, they started out in the kiddie pool. Alright? Where even if they wanted to, it would have been very hard for them to, if they fell in, they could stand up and the water was only up to maybe their knees. Well, in much the same way, some of these first examples are pretty simplistic. Okay? So the author says, open up our text editor, type in the code console.log hello universe, and save it as hello.js into your desktop. Again, you probably could copy this. Why? So I'm just going to come in here, and right here I've been working on something else here. So let's just do a file. Let's close the folder that I've got open. Alright, so I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to go in and create file, new file. Okay, so they want us to put in here console.log hello universe. Alright, and then file, save as. I'm going to save that file to the desktop. Now I might already have a hello.js. I've been playing around with a little of this before. I don't see it, so that's good. Alright, so let's just come in here and we'll put in hello.js. It says it already exists. Well, fine. I do want to replace it, so there. Alright, so I've done all that. And as they say in the book there, let's close this. We shouldn't need to have it open. Okay, save the file. That's all you need to do. You created a JavaScript file so that Node can execute it. In the next section, you'll run that file. Now, one thing that we talked about in the AWD1000 class was the use of use strict. When you type in use strict, you become a better programmer, for lack of better words. Alright, what you're doing is you're telling JavaScript to be more strict, because JavaScript is very, very lenient in the way it handles things. So I should be able to come back to that file that we created previously. It's taking a while today. And there it is. And I should be able to come in here and put in use strict. Okay, save it again. Alright. If you want more on that, you can read through this. That's not my intention in the lecture right here. But you can see quickly, and I'll try to make it quick, what does it do? You won't be able to create a global variable without using either var or let or const. You won't be able to assign a variable that can't be assigned. For instance, you can't use a keyword as a variable name. You need to choose names that don't repeat within the same scope when you assign values. So you're becoming a better programmer. As it says here, JavaScript can be forgiving, but for learning purposes, we're going to use strict. Okay. That gets us to the middle of page 24, running your JavaScript file with Node.js. So what do we want to do? Let's see if we can keep these both open here. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller. There we go. The Node.js JavaScript engine can interpret your JavaScript code from the terminal. When you navigate to the location of that file, I'm on the desktop. So let's see, if I say ls, I'm just going to say h star. There's my file, hello.js. So I know that it's there. Alright. Preface the file name with a node keyword. Now, the author says complete the following, and I want to show you two things here. It says open up a new terminal window. We've got it. Navigate to where you are on the desktop. Got it. Run your JavaScript file by entering the node keyword followed by the file's name. Okay? You can also run the command without the extension, and that's the key thing. So I can either say node hello.js, and there it is, and it ran it, but since by default the system assumes that you're working with a .javascript file, I can just say node hello. And you notice with both cases, it runs the file for me. Alright. So this is what you saw. Now that's his prompt, etc. So of course we don't get that stuff, but you get the idea. It says if you don't see a response, make sure that hello.js has content in it. Make sure that you're in the right directory. Make sure you've saved it. So, on the top of page 25 here, the author says, so exactly what's happening here. The console log function allows you to output the result of any JavaScript command to the console window. In our case, to our terminal's standard output window. Okay? If you want more on console log, you can go there. That's not a big thing. Alright. So the author says here, if you have a file called hello.js, what will happen if you type or run node hello in the terminal? Remember, you already know the answer to this, and the author is saying that since the terminal assumes you're running a JavaScript file by default, it'll just run it. So again, node hello is the same thing as running node hello.js. Alright. Section 2.3 on the bottom or middle part of page 25. The author says, imagine that you're working on an application to send positive messages to users. Before you fully incorporate your file full of positive messages into the application, you want to test it in REPL. says it says you can create a file with a .js extension, all right, with your messages as an array by creating a JavaScript file called messages.js. Well, let's just quickly come in here. All right, so I'm going to do a file. How do we close that? I think it's just like this, right? So file, new file, and I'm going to put in here exactly what they show on the middle of page 25. Let messages equal, and we're going to start right there, we're starting to create an array. Change of environment can be a good thing, so that'll be messages sub 0. Okay, you will make it, which is messages sub 1, and just run with the code. These are affirmations. We're putting this exclamation at the end of all those. Then at the end, to signify we're done, boom. Now we will save this. So file, save as. We will save it to the desktop, and this is called messages.js. And that one already exists, so I'm overwriting it. Like I said, I've done a bunch of these exercises already. Alright, and let's just close that so we're sure we didn't have that around. There we go. So we've already done this. Instead of executing this file with node.js, you can initiate it in your REPL environment by typing in the node keyword, alright, and import the file then using the .load messages.js. By importing the file, you give REPL access to the contents of that file. After it's imported, the window responds with the file's contents. We also have access to that messages variable throughout our REPL session. What does that mean? I think it means that we come in here, we type in node. Then we type in .load messages.js. Let me make this a little bigger. And there we have it. So it shows us everything that we put into that file. It runs the file for us, whatever you want to say. But notice now, if I say console.log and I put in here messages, okay, there they are. So it saved that messages variable for us. Okay, all right. Make sure you start REPL from the same directory. Talked about this before. Alright. So that's what they wanted us to do. Oh, we should have had use strict at the beginning. My error for forgetting that. So let's do a file. In fact, let's see. I think we can do this. Let's try it. Let's try something else here. Let's try .editor messages.js. It says we're entering editor mode. Now, I've not done this before. Let's just do a Control D. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of you. So let's do this. Control D, and we're out. I want to see if I'm going to get an error on this. So I'm going to bring this back up. Okay, open file. There's my messages. And again, at the beginning of it, I should have put in here at the front. Hopefully I won't be forgetting this. Use strict. Save. And I'm going to close that. I'm going to see if I get an error by trying to put this in again. In fact, well, let's try it. Nope, I didn't, but I've got the use strict in there now. Okay. You plan to list each of the messages to your user in your Node.js application. To test this loop, all right, try this. So let's put in this, and then let's go back and let's look at this. First, let's clear what we have on the screen. I don't know if it'll work in here or not. Nope. CLS. Nope. So it doesn't like that. All right. So we're going to type in messages dot for each. So we're going to loop through, and we're going to create a temporary variable called message. This is our arrow syntax. Console.log message. So in other words, we're telling the system, loop through and on the screen print out each one of these messages. So we should have 3 lines, one with each of these messages on it. And there they are. The messages will print in their array order as shown in the following, and that's exactly what you saw. And the author says here, if you're happy with the code you wrote in the REPL window, you can save the code to a file called positive messages by typing in .save positive messages. Doing so saves you the trouble of retyping what you put in there. So let's look. .save positive messages.js. Okay, said it was saved. So let's take a look, and all right, let's put our date modified. There's positive messages, and there it is. Use strict, let messages, and the for each. So it saved everything that we had done here. Personally, I kind of like it better when it looks like this. I like that look better. It's cleaner as far as I'm concerned. You may or may not agree. Probably should have changed that in Visual Studio Code because I'm mixing editors now, but again, not really and truly not that big a thing one way or the other. All right, let's finish this up. We're almost through with the lesson here. So what are 3 ways in which you could exit REPL? Well, we know .exit, doing Control-C twice, or a Control-D. All right. Number 2, how do you load a file that isn't in your project folder into REPL? Well, you have to give it an absolute path. So .load followed by the absolute path. Number 3, what happens if you save a file with a file name that already exists, and I believe it just overwrites it. So again, .exit, Control-C twice, or Control-D, absolute path, .save will overwrite it. Remember, as they say here, ease in navigating the Node.js REPL environment comes with practice. All right, and a lot of people don't like using a very simplistic editor and environment like this, but it's just one you'll get used to. Remember to access Node in Terminal for quick checking and testing of code that might take longer. All right, it says next, you're off to start building web apps and set them up right away from scratch. So, what did we do in this lesson? We learned that JavaScript files can be run with Node.js in the terminal. We explored REPL. And in the next lesson, we'll create a Node.js module and install some tools using the Node Package Manager. And as the author says here, as we finish up, these notes that are on the bottom of page 27 and 28, console.log will soon become one of your best friends. It can be used as a really good debugging tool. All right. It says console is a global object in Node.js. Log is one of the many instance methods you can run on the object. String interpolation, again, that's using the backticks. Okay. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's string literals. Here's interpolation right here. So we could have said hello %s. This is a placeholder for universe. That %s is a string, so it has to be in double or single quotes. Here %d is also a placeholder. D is for decimal integer, and that 100. So this will print out hello universe. This will print out score 100. Just to prove that to you, let's just start up Node again. There's got to be a way to clear this. Actually, now I can do a Control D and clear. There we go. So if I come into Node and I type in console.log hello %s universe, I get hello universe. And if I say console.log score %d, another placeholder 100, I get score 100. Okay. Try building a file called printer.js with this code. I probably already have it, but let's do it anyway. Let's see if I can do this in Node. How about that? So just to be sure, I'm going to .exit here, and I'm going to start up another Node session right here. Okay. In fact, let's do this. I'm sorry. .exit. Let's clear, and now let's start. Okay. So Node.editor. Use strict. Let x equal universe. Kind of hard to read from here. Sorry, let me move that up so I can move this up. Console.log. Remember, this is object literal, so backtick. Hello, comma, $, curly brace, x, curly brace, backtick. If this works, it should come back out and say hello universe. Now, I'm still in the editor. Alright, so let's see, entering mode, %d to finish. And you can see that it worked. I'm going to see if I can do a .save printer.js. Alright, so let's .load printer.js. Says x has already been declared. I'm getting the error because it's another let x, but x is in there already. So to see if it works, I should be able to console.log. Don't know if it'll take x like this or not. Yeah, it does. Universe. All right. So Next, we will begin, and I already got over it. That's not what I wanted. No, that wasn't good. But when we come back, and we will, we will begin on Unit 1, which starts on page 29, getting started with Node.js. I'll be back with that shortly.